Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're opening up, the psychology playbook of modern commerce, really.
Yeah, we're taking a close look at something that's just everywhere, all the time, brand influence.
Exactly, that really intricate, often totally invisible dance between, sophisticated marketing strategies and just fundamental human psychology.
Oh.
How we think, how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a pretty dense stack of sources here detailing, I think it's 7 core techniques that brands use almost invisibly to kind of nudge our everyday decisions.
Right. So, okay, our mission, let's call it, for this deep dive is really to get past just passively consuming all these marketing messages.
Yeah, move beyond just letting it wash over us.
Exactly. We want to give you access, essentially, to the psychological toolkit that brands are constantly pulling from.
Yeah.
It's about grasping the fundamental why. The why behind the slick ads and the really subtle
Not
strategies.
just the what they're selling.
Precisely. We want to show you exactly how these techniques go way beyond simple product features, how they ultimately shape your beliefs, your habits, and, yeah, your buying choices.
And the central idea, the concept unifying all this, is what the source material calls the invisible handshake. I find that metaphor really, really fascinating.
It is good, isn't it?
Because a handshake, it implies agreement. But here it suggests we're agreeing to be influenced, maybe without even fully realizing it. Like we haven't given fully informed consent.
That's it. That's the tension right there.
We're shaking hands with the brand, but we don't grasp the extent of the subtle manipulation we've just agreed to.
And that handshake, it often happens completely subconsciously. For so many of us, it feels like we're making an organic choice, an independent one.
My choice.
Mm.
Side of this.
Right. But actually, we've been expertly guided. So the goal for us, and for you listening, is to shine a light on these techniques, powerful techniques.
It's the invisible visible.
Yeah. We want that handshake to shift from being this unconscious, passive thing to a conscious engagement. Once you understand the specific levers being pulled, you just become a far more discerning consumer. Empowered, really.
So what's in it for you, the listener? Well, this deep dive is basically a shortcut. A shortcut to being really well informed about the hidden forces shaping basically every purchase decision you make.
Big or small.
From the apps you use every day to, the big investments like your car or home. So let's start at the foundation, the bedrock,
Okay.
the foundation of desire. We'll focus first on emotion and then look at positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, technique number 1 in this toolkit, and this one's aimed straight at the heart, building emotional connections.
Right. And the sources really stress this. For any brand wanting, long-term success, they have to get that they're rarely just selling a functional thing, a physical product.
And more than this, some of its parts.
Much more. They're selling a complex tapestry, really. A feeling, an aspiration, maybe a whole narrative.
And why bypass logic? Why is that so critical?
Well, because logic is unstable, commercially speaking. Facts, features, specs, they can be copied. A competitor can always offer a slightly better spec or, shave a bit off the price.
Undercut you easily.
Easily. But emotion, that creates a deep psychological anchor. It fosters loyalty, trust, stuff that's incredibly hard for a rival brand to just displace.
I see this constantly. You watch a luxury car ad, they're not listing the engine's torque figures.
No.
They show this lone car like conquering some spectacular mountain road. It screams freedom, ambition, mastery.
Exactly. They're tapping directly into our deepest desires, that need for belonging maybe, or a yearning for nostalgia, or, like you said, the drive for empowerment, status.
And storytelling is how they do it.
Storytelling is the vehicle. Absolutely. Think about big food or drink brands around the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
They're not selling ingredients lists. They're subtly showing maybe this beautiful, warm family gathering spanning generations, evoking joy, security, warmth.
And the product is just there, part of the scene.
Right. It's inserted not as a commodity, but as an essential piece of that positive memory, that blueprint they're creating.
So the whole point of a sophisticated ad campaign shifts, doesn't it? It's not an information sheet anymore.
Not at all. It's a meticulously crafted short story designed specifically to hit a powerful positive feeling.
Makes sense.
And that's why, marketing thinkers like Seth Godin say things like, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories you tell.
The story is the product, in a way.
The physical product just becomes the tangible proof, the vehicle for that bigger aspirational story. And if a brand connects emotionally like that, they get what the sources call an economic moat. It's just much cheaper to keep an emotionally connected customer than to constantly find new ones.
And the result isn't just sales, it's transformation, almost.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
It turns someone who just bought something once into a passionate advocate, someone who feels genuine pride, internal pride in being associated with that brand. They aren't just buying clothes. They're buying into a story about sustainability, maybe, or ethical production. And that emotional investment makes them really resistant to competitor offers.
It creates self-identification. I'm the kind of person who buys this. Once you hit that point,
Game over for the competition, almost.
well, the purchase isn't just transactional anymore. It's confirming your personal identity.
Okay, so that strong emotional anchor builds loyalty. But how do brands keep us coming back? Make it a habit, especially after that initial emotional glow fades a bit.
Right. Good question. That leads us straight into technique number 7, actually, activating the reward circuit.
Skipping ahead. Why 7 now?
Well, we deliberately jumped the order because reward acts as the sort of psychological follow-through to that emotional foundation we just talked about. Emotion hooks you, reward keeps you.
Got it. Makes sense.
This is pure, deliberate, positive reinforcement designed to build lasting habits. The core idea is using rewards, sometimes predictable, sometimes not, to encourage repeat buying and really cement that relationship.
So loyalty programs, points for purchases, exclusive discounts.
Exactly. All that stuff. Returning customer perks, maybe surprise gifts.
So every time I scan my coffee shop app for points,
Right.
or I'm trying to get to the silver tier on some platform, I'm basically playing their game.
You're participating in a highly sophisticated bit of behavioral science. Yeah. It links directly to the foundational work of B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning.
Right. Skinner's box.
Essentially, yeah. The basic principle. When a behavior you want, like buying something or engaging with the app, is followed by a consequence, they want you to, like a reward, a discount, that behavior gets reinforced, it's much more likely to happen again. It engineers a habit loop.
Is it just about giving discounts, though? What's the deeper insight for the marketers?
No, it's more nuanced than just discounts. And this is where the real sophistication comes in, often missed in, surface level takes. Marketers rarely use what's called fixed ratio reinforcement.
Meaning like buy 5, get 1 free. Predictable.
Exactly. A reward every 5 purchases, say. That behavior becomes predictable, and honestly, it loses its psychological punch pretty quickly. People just expect it.
So what do they use instead?
Increasingly, they rely on variable ratio reinforcement.
Okay. The slot machine effect.
That's the perfect analogy, the variable ratio schedule. You know a reward is possible, maybe even likely, but you don't know exactly when it's coming.
A surprise discount code. A random free gift with purchase.
A spin the wheel bonus in the app. That uncertainty, that anticipation, it releases dopamine in the brain. It creates a far more powerful, almost compulsive loop of repeat engagement. It's addictive.
Wow. Okay, that explains why modern loyalty apps feel so sticky. They gamify it,
They do.
making the consumer feel valued, appreciated, even if the actual reward isn't huge, because that anticipation of the variable reward keeps them checking back in, keeps them buying.
It does. It's all about the feeling of gaining something extra, often something unexpected. So when you face multiple choices in the market, the brand that's consistently reinforced your past behavior, well, it becomes the path of least psychological resistance.
You're anchored twice over.
Exactly. By the initial emotion and then by this really effective habit reinforcement loop.
Okay, so that lays a really strong foundation for long-term loyalty, emotion, and reward. Now let's pivot a bit. Let's look at techniques designed more for immediate action.
Hmm.
and building that kind of instant subconscious trust.
Right. Moving from long-term relationship building to more immediate triggers.
So technique number 2, exploiting the principle of scarcity. I suspect this is the engine behind basically every successful flash sale I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge driver of impulse buying. This technique taps right into that pervasive fear of missing out. FOMO.
We all know that feeling.
We do. By making a product seem limited, whether in quantity or time, available brands dramatically jack up its perceived value. We just instinctively value things that are scarce.
Why is that?
Well, scarcity signals desirability, doesn't it? Exclusivity. Maybe difficulty to obtain. If it's hard to get, it must be good, or at least other people want it.
Okay, let's break down how they manufacture scarcity.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's real, right? Like concert tickets.
Yeah.
But often it feels staged.
That's a really crucial distinction. And yes, it's often staged. We see it everywhere. Limited edition product drops.
Which often aren't limited by materials, just by choice.
Exactly. Intentional production caps. Or while stocks last promotions, even when the warehouse is actually full. And of course, those intense countdown timers you see on shopping websites.
Stressful.
They're designed to be. The psychological mechanism hinges on loss aversion. We'll probably talk more about that later. But basically, you anticipate the pain of missing the opportunity more strongly than you anticipate the pleasure of maybe getting the item later, cheaper.
So the fear of loss is a bigger motivator than the prospect of gain.
Much bigger, psychologically. And the analysis suggests scarcity taps into something even deeper than just FOMO. It triggers something called psychological reactance.
Reactance.
Yeah. When our freedom to choose something or get something is threatened or limited, we react by wanting that thing even more fiercely.
Like a toddler being told they can't have a toy.
It's a surprisingly similar mechanism, yes. If a brand says you can only get this for the next 48 hours, they're restricting your access. That restriction itself heightens your desire for the product. It creates pressure, urgency.
And that urgency, that pressure, makes us act fast.
Super fast. And that rapid response often just bypasses the careful, rational thinking parts of our brain.
Click buy now, think later.
Pretty much. It encourages impulse purchasing, especially for, say, trending products where that social desirability factor reinforces the scarcity pressure. Everyone wants it and it's running out.
You stop asking, do I really need this? Is this the best price?
Right. You start focusing entirely on how quickly can I lock this down before it's gone. It's a highly effective way to just compress the whole sales cycle, get the decision made now.
Okay, that urgency makes sense. And it leads us perfectly into the next one, technique number 3. The impact of repetition. If scarcity drives intense, immediate desire, repetition seems like it drives something else entirely.
It does. Repetition is the silent builder of trust and familiarity. It's less about immediate action, more about long-term comfort.
How does it work? Just seeing the same logo over and over.
Essentially, yes. Repeated exposure to a brand's core message, its logo, its jingle, consistently spread across different channels, online ads, TV, billboards, podcasts.
Everywhere.
It significantly increases not just brand retention, remembering the name, but crucially, brand liking.
Just because you've seen it a lot?
Pretty much. Think about that old advertising idea, the rule of 7. It suggests consumers need to encounter a message about 7 times before they really internalize it and maybe act on it.
So we're talking about the mere exposure effect here.
Exactly that. The psychological principle where simply being exposed to something repeatedly increases our liking for it, even if that exposure is just peripheral, like seeing a logo in the corner of your screen.
Why does that happen? Why do we like familiar things more?
Well, the brain likes familiarity because familiarity feels safe. It implies predictability, and importantly, it requires less cognitive energy to process something familiar than something new.
Mental shortcuts again.
Always. When we see a brand's logo or hear its tune multiple times a day, it stops being this novel, foreign thing and becomes familiar, recognized. easy to process. That ease of processing is called cognitive fluency. And we inherently prefer things that are easy for our brains to handle.
And this preference translates directly into buying stuff.
It does. Psychologist Robert Cialdini, who's done loads of work on influence, he observed that people are more likely to say yes to requests from people who are familiar to us,
And that applies to brands, too.
just as much. It's a profound subconscious result, really. When a brand keeps showing up, in your social media feed through retargeting, in your email, on TV, it builds this quiet, robust, subconscious preference.
So when you finally need something in that
Well,
category.
exactly. When you actually enter the market to buy, say, insurance or a new phone, that familiar brand just feels, well, it feels like the trusted, stable, almost default choice.
Even if you haven't consciously thought about why.
Right. You feel like you chose it organically, but
Yeah.
actually you were expertly primed by all that constant measured exposure over weeks, months, maybe years.
It overcomes the sheer exhaustion of choice, maybe. In a world with endless options, just picking the familiar ones saves mental energy.
That's a huge part of it. It simplifies the decision.
Yeah.
Familiarity equals easy. Easy feels good.
Okay, now we're getting into, I think, the really sophisticated stuff. The techniques brands use specifically to bypass our rational, critical thinking altogether.
Yeah, moving beyond just building familiarity or urgency and really tapping into subconscious decision making.
Let's start with technique number 4. Leveraging social credibility, or, the power of the crowd. Social proof.
Right. We are fundamentally social animals. We're wired to look at what other people are doing, what they think, especially when we're feeling uncertain about a decision.
Safety in numbers.
Exactly. Brands capitalize on this innate reliance on the wisdom of the crowd to just dramatically cut down the perceived risk of buying something.
How do they do that, practically?
Through strategically using social proof. Think online reviews, customer testimonials, influencer endorsements, even just showing bestseller tags or user-generated photos.
It's all about validation, isn't it? If hundreds or thousands of other people had a good experience, my chances seem way better.
Absolutely. It shifts the feeling from making this solitary, potentially risky leap to joining a community that's already approved this choice.
And the influence is huge.
Immense
Yeah.
and measurable. The sources cite data, like from Nielsen, showing things like, what was it, 92% of consumers read online reviews before purchasing.
Wow, 92%. That's almost everyone.
It's massive. It shows we trust the opinions of complete strangers online almost as much as, sometimes even more than, what the brand tells us directly.
But it's not just star ratings, is it? Social proof is broader than that.
Oh, definitely. Brands leverage different types of social proof. There's expert proof, think of dentist endorsing toothpaste.
Credible source.
Right. Then there's celebrity proof, less about expertise, more about aspiration. If they use it, maybe I'll be like them. Then you have user proof. That's the sheer volume of positive reviews, the star ratings, power in numbers. And maybe the most subtle is wisdom of the crowds.
What's that?
That's when websites show things like 15 people bought this in the last hour or a trending item. It creates a sense of herd behavior. If everyone else is doing it, it must be okay, or I might miss out.
Okay. So brands pick and choose which type of proof fits best.
Exactly. They meticulously curate and highlight the social proof that best suits their product, their target audience. The goal is always to demonstrate reliability, popularity. Make the purchase feel less like your individual gamble and more like a smart, well-informed choice already vetted by the community.
Provides reassurance, belonging.
Very powerful human motivators. It's just hardwired into us to not want to stand too far apart from the crowd, especially when it seems like the crowd is making a good choice. Brands know this. They exploit that desire to conform.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move into what I find really, really fascinating. Technique number 5, employing cognitive bias principles.
Ah, yes, the brain's shortcuts.
This is where brands use the very mental shortcuts, the biases that our brains evolved to process information efficiently, but they use them to tilt our decisions in their favor.
This is probably the peak of psychological sophistication in marketing. Yeah, our brains use these shortcuts, these heuristics, because frankly, the amount of information we face every day is just overwhelming. We can't rationally analyze everything.
So we take mental shortcuts.
We have to, and brands get very, very good at recognizing these common biases and then structuring their messages, their pricing, their presentation specifically to exploit them.
Okay, let's focus on the first big one mentioned, confirmation bias.
Right, confirmation bias. This is our deep-seated tendency to actively seek out, remember, and prioritize information that confirms what we already believe or suspect to be true.
We like being right.
We love being right. So brands work really hard to create a positive initial impression, maybe through those amazing visuals we'll talk about, or a powerful emotional story, or a strong celebrity endorsement. Get that positive seed planted first.
And once that positive impression is there,
The consumer's own confirmation bias often takes over.
meaning they start looking for reasons to justify the purchase they're already leaning towards.
Precisely. They'll actively seek out positive reviews, they'll click on articles praising the brand, and crucially, they'll subconsciously dismiss, ignore, or rationalize away negative feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, that reviewer must have just had a bad day, or that problem probably won't affect me.
So the brand doesn't even have to hide the negative stuff sometimes.
Sometimes they don't need to. Brands use targeted ads and social media segmentation to make sure you keep seeing messages that confirm the positive view you've already started forming. It reinforces your own potential decision, making you feel smarter about it.
Wow. So that initial branding, that first ad you see, it has to be really polished. It sets the stage for your own bias to do the heavy
Well,
lifting.
That's exactly right. Nailed the first impression. And then there's framing bias.
Okay, framing, how things are presented.
Yes. This highlights how the context or the way information is presented drastically influences our choice, even if the underlying objective facts are identical.
The classic example everyone uses.
The standard one from behavioral economics is minced meat, right? Label it 90% fat-free, and it sounds way healthier and more appealing than labeling the exact same meat 10% fat.
Even though it's mathematically the same.
Identical. But the positive frame, fat-free, focuses your mind on the benefit, while the negative frame, fat, triggers negative associations. Brands do this constantly with statistics, features, comparisons.
Always putting the best spin on it, focusing on the gain. Which actually brings us to that really crucial concept you mentioned earlier, loss aversion.
Yes. Loss aversion. This is a big one. Deeply rooted in prospect theory, developed by Nobel winner Daniel Kahneman and his colleague Amos Tversky.
And the core idea is,
They demonstrated pretty convincingly that we are far more sensitive to potential losses than to equivalent gains. Psychologically, the pain of losing something feels about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the exact same thing.
losing $10 feels worse than finding $10 feels good.
Much worse. We're wired to avoid loss.
So how do brands, well, weaponize this? How do they use loss aversion practically?
They structure deals, offers, and even entire service models around preventing loss rather than just offering a gain. Think about the classic free trial for a subscription service.
Yeah, they offer it free, but you need to put your credit card details in up front.
Exactly. And then it automatically converts to a paid subscription unless you actively remember and take steps to cancel before the deadline.
Right.
The moment you sign up, you psychologically possess that service. It feels like yours. Then the brand frames the upcoming payment not as you gaining continued access, but as you losing the service you already have unless you pay.
So canceling feels like actively losing something rather than just not buying something.
Precisely. It creates this significant psychological barrier. The effort required to avoid the loss feels much greater than the initial, often effortless decision to sign up for the free trial. It dramatically increases conversion rates.
That's sneaky,
But effective.
very effective. Other examples. Introductory pricing that's about to expire. You see the messaging. Price goes up tomorrow. The feeling isn't, oh, I should pay the standard rate. It's, oh no, about to lose my special discounted rate.
The language is always about avoiding the loss. Don't miss out. Always fear-based. Offer ends soon. It triggers that aversion to loss, pushing you to act now to avoid the pain of missing the deal. It shows pricing isn't just about numbers, it's deep behavioral psychology.
Wow. Okay, that's incredibly sophisticated.
Okay.
Finally, let's cover the last one. Technique number 6, the silent language of imagery. If biases hit our mental shortcuts, visuals seem to hit deeper. Our gut reactions, emotional memory.
Absolutely. Visual cues often bypass the logical, critical mind entirely. They speak directly to our unconscious associations, creating meaning almost instantly. What we see often speaks much louder, much faster than any words on the page or screen.
Semiotics in advertising, the study of signs and symbols.
Exactly that. Think about using a powerful animal like a jaguar or a horse associated with a car brand. It doesn't just suggest speed in a literal way. It evokes these deep, innate associations of power, performance, elegance, maybe even dominance.
Or showing a really vibrant, healthy, smiling person using a breakfast cereal. It immediately suggests well-being, happiness, energy.
Right. It's rapid pre-verbal communication. And maybe the most meticulously controlled part of this is color psychology.
And the colors brands choose.
Brands obsess over this because colors carry inherent psychological associations, many of which are surprisingly universal. Red, for example. It ignites passion, urgency, excitement, even hunger.
Hence fast food logo, sales signs.
Exactly. Whereas blue conveys trust, security, stability, tranquility, which is why you see it used overwhelmingly by banks, tech companies, healthcare providers. They want to communicate reliability.
So the choice of just one primary color can basically anchor the entire brand promise before you even read the name.
It can absolutely define the brand's core identity in a fraction of a second. And we also have to consider the really subtle stuff like the body language of the models used in ads.
How does a model's posture influence me?
Tremendously, though, subconsciously. Their posture, their facial expressions, even where they're looking, their gaze, these communicate specific emotions. Confidence, approachability, aspiration, coolness.
So if a model looks incredibly confident wearing a certain watch or suit,
The viewer subconsciously connects that desirable feeling confidence with the brand. And crucially, they start to imagine, maybe I will feel that confident if I buy that product. It's all designed to shape perception without ever triggering your conscious analysis or skepticism.
it's the silent promise. The promise of transformation, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. The silent promise delivered visually. Hashtag tag tag conclusion and informed awareness.
Okay, wow. That was a really comprehensive deep dive into those 7 psychological pillars of brand influence. Let's just quickly recap.
Good idea.
We started with the foundation, building loyalty through emotion and reinforcing habits via the reward circuit. That was techniques 1 and 7.
The long game.
Then we looked at driving immediate action through scarcity. That's technique 2. And building long-term trust through repetition, technique 3.
Urgency and familiarity.
And finally, the really sophisticated ones that bypass rationality. Using social proof from the crowd, technique 4, actively employing cognitive biases like loss aversion and framing, technique 5, and leveraging the power of the silent language of imagery, technique 6.
That covers the whole toolkit, really, the complete invisible handshake. And I think this is the critical takeaway for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Understanding these techniques isn't about just becoming cynical about everything. It's not about mistrusting all brands.
No.
It's about becoming a significantly more informed, more empowered consumer, someone who can start to recognize when their decisions are genuinely coming from within versus when they're being, well, externally nudged.
Which brings us to a really important question, actually, that came up in the sources FAQ section, the ethical line. We've seen some techniques that seem positive, like rewarding loyalty, but when does this toolkit cross over into manipulation or exploitation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And look, many of these techniques can be part of a healthy, positive relationship between a brand and a consumer. Genuine loyalty programs, creating real emotional connections around shared values, that can be good.
So where's the line?
The line gets crossed, I think, when brands deliberately mislead, when they exploit known psychological vulnerabilities like anxiety or addiction loops, or when they actively fabricate the premise for the technique.
Can you give a concrete example of that? Fabricating the premise.
Sure, faking scarcity. Creating a totally false countdown timer on a website when there are millions of units in stock and the sale never really ends, that's deliberately deceptive. It's exploiting loss aversion and reactance dishonestly.
Or fake reviews.
Exactly. Curating or paying for dishonest reviews to manufacture social proof. That's exploiting our natural trust in peers to mislead us. That's very different from, say, highlighting genuine positive feedback or running a transparent loyalty program where the rewards are real.
Okay, so if we want to navigate this complex marketplace with this new awareness, how can we spot these techniques being used on us, in real time, day to day?
The key is to pause. Inject a moment of rationality into the process, especially when you feel that urge to act immediately.
Slow down the decision.
Yes. When you see a marketing message, an ad, an email, a web page, pay sharp attention. Notice the specific language being used. The calls to action, are they urgent? Fear-based. Notice the overall emotional tone it's trying to evoke.
Ask yourself why.
Ask yourself why. Is this trying to make me feel anxious about missing out? Is it trying to make me feel proud, like I'll belong if I buy this? If you see that countdown timer or a low stock warning, question it. Is this genuine, or is it just a psychological nudge designed purely to bypass my thinking and trigger an impulse?
So basically, if you feel strongly compelled to buy something right now, without stopping to think, compare, or research, that's often the biggest red flag.
That's often the strongest signal, yeah. That a powerful psychological technique is actively at work, trying to override your critical analysis. You're learning to ask why the information is presented that specific way and which part of your brain, rational or emotional, shortcut-driven, the brand is targeting.
And just briefly, did the sources suggest which technique is sort of the most powerful overall, especially for that long-term loyalty?
Yeah, they were pretty clear on that. While all 7 techniques are effective in different contexts for building that true, deep, long-term loyalty and sustainable engagement. Building that strong emotional connection, technique 1 is generally considered the single most powerful and enduring strategy.
Because that emotional resonance, that feeling of shared identity or values, that's the hardest thing for any competitor to just copy or undercut with a lower price.
Exactly. It transcends the product itself. It transforms the relationship from just a series of transactions into something ongoing, built on perceived shared values and identity.
This has been incredibly eye-opening, really getting under the hood of marketing into the core of how we make decisions.
Yeah.
We are always, it seems, subject to this invisible handshake of marketing psychology.
It's always there.
But now that you, listening, recognize these 7 forces at play, the emotional pulls, the rewards, the biases they leverage, the visual cues, the scarcity pressures, we'll leave you with this final thought to mull over. How will your heightened awareness now allow you to start making decisions that are truly aligned with your genuine independent needs and values, rather than those subtly imposed by unseen influence?
Something to think about. Engage consciously, everyone.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.